Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiraye. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto, 4th chapter, text number 12. Doshan paresham higuneshu sadhavo Grananti kechinna bhavadrisho dvaja Gunamscha palgun bahuli karishnavo Mahatamas tesh wabidad bhavan agam. Please, a couple more chanters. Doshan paresham higuneshu sadhavo
Vija
Grananti kechinna bhavadrisho dvaja
Gunamscha falgun bahuli karishnavo
Gunamscha palgun bahuli kanishnavo
Mahattamasteshva vidadbhavanagam
Mahatamaste svavidad bhavanagam. Doshan paresham hukineshu sadhava
Grananti kechinna bhavadrisho dvija
Grananti kechinna bhavadrisho dvija
Gunamscha falgun bahuli karishnavo
Gunamscha palgun bahuli kanishnavo
Mahattamasteshu avidad bhavagam
Mahatamasте svavidad bhavan. Vaishnavis, please. Doshan paresham higuneshu sadhavo Grananti kechinna bhavadrisho dvaja
Gunamscha falgun bahuli karishnavo
Gunamscha palgun bahuli kanishyavo
Mahattamasteshva vidad bhavanagam
Mahatamasте svavidad bhavan gunad. Or ek.
Doshan paresham hi guneshu sadhavo
Doshan paresham higuneshu sadhavo
Grihnanti kechinna bhavadrisho dvija
Grananti kechinna bhavadrisho dvija
Gunamscha falgun bahuli karishnavo
Gunamscha palgun bahuli kanishyavo
Mahattamasteshva vidad bhavanagam
Mahatamasте svavidad. Monisha. Doshan paresham higuneshu sadhavo
Grinanti kechinna bhavadrisho dvija
Grananti kechinna bhavadrisho dvija
Gunamscha falgun bahuli kanishnavo
Gunamscha palgun bahuli kanishyavo
Mahattamastvesh avidhat bhavanagam
Mahatamasте svavidad bhavandagam. Doshan, faults, paresham, of others, hi, for, guneshu, in the qualities, sadhava, sadhus, grananti, find, kechit, some, na, not, Bhavadrisha, like you, Dvija, O twice born, Gunan, qualities, Cha, and Palgun, small, Bahuli Karishnava, greatly magnifies, Mahatama, the greatest persons, Teshu, among them, Avidat, find, Bhavan, you, Akam, the fault. There's a tiny little bug. Translation, twice born Daksha, a man like you can simply find fault in the qualities of others. Lord Shiva, however, not only finds no faults with others' qualities, but if someone has a little good quality, he magnifies it greatly. Unfortunately, you have found fault with such a great soul. Let's read together. Twice born Daksha, a man like you can simply find fault in the qualities of others. Lord Shiva, however, not only finds no faults with others' qualities, but if someone has a little good quality, he magnifies it greatly. Unfortunately, you have found fault with such a great soul. Srila Prabhupada's purport. King Daksha is addressed here by his daughter Sati as Dvija, twice born. Twice born refers to the higher classes of men, namely the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas. In other words, a Dvija is not an ordinary man, but one who has studied the Vedic literature from a spiritual master and can discriminate between good and bad. Therefore, it is supposed that he understands logic and philosophy. Sati, Daksha's daughter, put before him sound arguments. There are some highly qualified persons who accept only the good qualities of others. Just as a bee is always interested in the honey in the flower and does not consider the thorns and colors, highly qualified persons who are uncommon accept only the good qualities of others, not considering their bad qualities. Whereas the common man can judge what are good qualities and what are bad qualities. Among the uncommonly good souls, there are still gradations, and the best good soul is one who accepts an insignificant asset of a person and magnifies that good quality. Lord Shiva is also called Ashutosh, which means to one who is satisfied very easily and who offers to any person the highest level of benediction. For example, once a devotee of Lord Shiva wanted the benediction that whenever he touched someone on the head, that person's head would at once be separated from his trunk. Lord Shiva agreed, although the benediction asked was not very commendable because the devotee wanted to kill his enemy. Lord Shiva considered the devotee's good quality in worshipping and satisfying him and granted the benediction. Thus, Lord Shiva accepted his bad qualities as magnificently good qualities. But Sati accused her father, "You are just the opposite. Although Lord Shiva has so many good qualities and no bad qualities at all, you have accepted him as bad and found fault with him. Because of your accepting his good qualities to be bad, instead of your becoming the most exalted soul, you have become the most fallen. A man becomes the greatest soul by accepting the goodness of others' qualities, but by unnecessarily considering others' good qualities to be bad, you have become the lowest of the fallen souls." Om Jnanatimidandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuran Militam Nena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, Lord Balaram's appearance day is a precursor to Lord Krishna appearing, because Lord Balaram is the one who clears the way for us to worship Krishna fully. There's a way in which one may, after being in the material world, acquires unwanted qualities. And this comes from our association, says Krishna in the Srimad Bhagavad Gita 13:22, from our association with the modes. Purusha prakriti stohi punkte prakriti jan gunan karanam guna sangosya sarasad yoni janmasu. Although we're pure souls, by associating with the three modes of material nature, we become accustomed to the various modes of material nature and try to taste their qualities here in the material world, errantly so. And there's a way in which we can come back to our original state of consciousness, which is free from the dirt of material life. And this is a process which is preceded by Lord Balaram, or which is initiated by Lord Balaram, and who opens the door for us to come to Krishna, come back into our service in the spiritual world. We know that Balaram appears before Krishna does, and he's transferred into the womb of Rohini from Devaki's womb. And we also know that there are 6 other children that are born that in their previous lives had been sons of Kalanemi, who in the next life became Kamsa. And in the last life, they had taken shelter of Brahma, much to the dismay and dislike of Kalanemi, who then cursed them. He was envious of his own sons. And he said, in your next life, you'll be killed just when you come out of the womb. This was their curse, and it so happened that they took birth in the womb of Devaki, one after another. They're called the Sadgarbha Asuras. And they represent Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Mada, Moha, Matsarya. Those very words should cause us some consternation. For instance, Matsarya, there's the dread disease of envy, comes from a root word like Matsya. Matsya is the fish. Matsya is a fish. Of course, there's a Matsya avatar who's not really a fish. He's Krishna, but he comes in the form of a fish. And Matsarya's meaning or root comes from the way in which many fish, when they have offspring, eat their own offspring. Why? Because they think that these little fish will become big and then they might eat me. So while they're small, I'll eat them. And this is the very essence of Matsarya. Matsarya means this envy in the material world, that everyone's thinking, I don't want others to get ahead. Only I should get ahead because I'm the enjoyer. I want to be the enjoyer, and I don't want anybody to compete with. So out of envy, I try to kill my competition, either in a gross way or a subtle way. And this is the history of the material world. If anybody here has studied American history, European history, or world history, or universal history, you'll come to know that this is the pervasive mood of everyone here in this world, to take out others before they take you out. Ahastani sahasanam, apanani tushpadam, palguni tatra mahatam jivo jivasya jivanam. It's the rule in this material world that one living being is food for another. It's a dog-eat-dog world. I'm going to start using cliches now, so stand by. However, there's a different mood that comes from the spiritual world, where the impetus of every living being is to help others to serve Krishna. In fact, the most exalted of devotees, or the most exalted devotee of all, Srimati Radharani's concern is bringing others closer to Krishna so that they can have his association and be in his service. Rather than thinking of her own service, she thinks of the service of others. And pervasive in Vaishnava communities, the Vaishnavas are paradukha-dukhi. They suffer because of the suffering of others. They never feel inconvenienced themselves because they're fully absorbed in the mood of service. Narayana parak sarvena kutashchana pibhyati swarga pavarga narakeshu api tulyarta darshina. To them, heaven or hell, which is a relative idea of being more or less inconvenienced in the material world. If you go to some places, some realms, you'll be slightly less inconvenienced, but there's always a delimiting factor to your so-called convenience. And in hell, it's a constant inconvenience. In the material, on the earthly planet, we get half and half, 50-50. The Vaishnavas know that the only cure for this constant distraction and torture of the soul here in the material world is to lift the souls up by giving them contact with service to Krishna. So Balaram comes just after the Shadgarbha Asuras into the womb of Rohini, and it appears that there was a miscarriage. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur mentions, as does Srila Prabhupada, of course, because he's following his commentary in this section of the Srimad Bhagavatam, that Devaki was afraid of Kamsa, and rightly so, because he was killing her sons one after another, and she was worried when Krishna appeared, he would also kill Krishna. So these acharyas mentioned that we should be afraid of material existence. By the fear we have of material existence and awareness that by our mixing with materialistic people will remain contaminated, that fear and keeping our hearts closed to the materialists who have an optimism for enjoying in the material world and only open to the Vaishnavas who have only an optimism in serving Krishna. Then gradually, through our contact with the Vaishnavas, we can overcome these 6 faults and become purified. Before Krishna appears, we get the association of Lord Balaram. Balaram is Krishna's first expansion, and he comes specifically to serve Krishna in every possible way. And one of the ways that he's famous for serving Krishna is by bringing wayward souls back to him. Samsara davanadha lila loka tranaya karunya ghana ghana tvam praptasya kalyana gunarnavasya vande guroshi charanada vindam. The Guru Tattva, which is the essence of Sri Balaram, is described by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in this first verse of the Gurvashtakam. And he says that the material world is like a burning fire. Take notice that everything's burning. Of course, it's very literal nowadays. It's always been literal. The body's burning up right now. The mind burns, the heart burns with lust and envy. And we also are literally burning at 98.6, which is pretty hot. The body gradually burns itself out. And everything in the material world is burning, even more so nowadays because of climate change, and will ultimately be burnt. The material world is a huge forest fire. We're burning literally, figuratively, from lust, anger, greed, and also physically we're burning out. One great teacher of bhakti once said, our samsara going from one burning body to the next is much like chain smoking. People who chain smoke finish a cigarette, and when it's about 75% finished, 80% finished, they take a fresh cigarette and they put it up to the one that's burning. They throw the other one, probably out their car window, start a forest fire, and then they take the new one and they smoke it. And when that one gets down, they put the next one up to it. And in that way, they can keep smoking all day long. This is called chain smoking. And so living entities who are addicted to the burning material body are like chain smokers. They finish one body, and then let's light up another one. This is samsara dhavanadhalita loka. The whole material world's in distress because of this burning sensation. So someone might then say, well, let's put out the fire. Maybe you can go to CVC. Is that the name of the store? The drugstore? CVS. You can go to CVS and get some cream, some special cream that'll put out the fire. Some medicine. My body's itching, burning. Get the cream. Does it work? A little bit. Not exactly. My liver's burning, my head's burning. People take all kinds of medication to try to get it to stop, and it works a little bit, but then it just comes right back. And when there's a fire, people might think, well, let's get a bucket of water. For a big forest fire, how many buckets of water do you need to put it out? Well, more than one for sure. People come up with sprinkler systems to save their house from big fires. The fire gets so hot. My friend in Malibu, who was renting a room at somebody's house, and he had a bicycle. He used to ride to and from his work. And when the Malibu fires took place, he came back to the house. There was no more house, and there was no more bicycle. Not that there was a melted frame. There was no frame at all. It had vaporized because the fire was so hot. Fire departments try to put out the fire. They bring planes over and they drop water, but it won't go out because it's too powerful. And Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says the whole material world's burning with these qualities of envy and lust. And the only way it can be put out is by the mercy of Lord Balaram, the Guru. So Balaram comes in various forms, comes as the Vartmana Pradakshika Guru, the one who shows us the path, then Shiksha Guru, one who takes the trouble to instruct us, and Diksha Guru, one who gives us the mantra so we can chant, and then gives us support. Uddhava, mentioning these various gurus, says, Naivo payantya pachitim kavayastevesha ramayu shapi kridam rida mudasparanta yontar bahish tanubritam shubhan vadunban acharya chaitya vapusha swagatim vyanakti. That I could not repay you, Krishna, he said, because you're so kind that you send me these various gurus to show your own path, how to go back home, back to Godhead, come out of the burning material world, to save us, to save us. And therefore, if I had a lifetime of Brahma or more, I couldn't show my gratitude enough to you, Krishna, he says. Because from within, as Paramatma, you instruct me. And that's Balaram also, as we know. Yasyam sham sham sha paratma kilanam pushta vishnu bhati dukdab dishai shauni bharta yat kala sopyanantas tam shri Nityananda ramam prapadye. Shirdakshay Vishnu is Balaram, expansion of Balaram. What's he here for? The little jiva is burning in the material world, and he enters within the heart. And then, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Tesham anukampartam ajama jnana tamaha nashyam yatma bhavasto jnanadi pain abhashvata. That I'm there ready to illuminate your heart with knowledge so you can come back to me. And this is Balaram. This is his expansion that comes to this world to enlighten us. And Uddhava says, you're there inside the heart to enlighten me at any time that I'm interested. And Gajendra says, it's not that you are inattentive while I'm inattentive. He said, you're always attentive. I'm the one who's not attentive. I haven't been praying. I never thought of it. I thought, how do I get my next engagement here in the material world? How may I remain distracted in the material world? And through every single body and trying to enjoy the Lord, the expansion of Lord Balaram comes with us in the heart, waiting for us to turn our attention to Him. So this is the great mercy of Balaram. Sangsara davanadhalita loka tranaya karunya kanaganatam. So the quality is karunya. It's mercy, which means that no matter what condition we're in, the Lord comes to deliver us. And that brings us to today's verse, because there's a very important commentary given to this verse by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Were we able to transfer that to our film crew through Dropbox? Ramananda Sakaprabhu doesn't know about it, I can tell from his expression. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur goes through this verse and gives us the various categories of personalities and shows us who is the highest personality and who is the lowest based on each one's propensity to either find fault or to overlook faults. And why do I bring this up? Because in the work of Lord Nityananda, he's mentioned by our acharyas as being a dosha darshi. So dosha means fault. Dosa means it's 12 o'clock and time for prasadam. A dosha darshi means he doesn't see any faults at all, ever, in the living entities, including as Lord Nityananda when Madai strikes him on the head with a pot. And just to alarm Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, although the Lord is a Papa Shuddham, he has no veins in his body, it's a totally transcendental body. Lord Nityananda manifests blood gushing from his head, so that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will come running to that spot. And there, Nityananda Prabhu begs for mercy for Jagai and Madai to save them, and tells the Lord, this is not the age to call for your chakra. This is the time when you just deliver people, and Lord Nityananda arranges for them to be delivered. According to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, there are 4 gradations of good persons and 4 bad persons based on the degree of sattva guna or tamoguna in the individual. So this is the first as a list of good persons. And at the beginning level of a person being good is called mahat. And a mahat sees others' faults as capable of being transformed into good qualities. Wouldn't you agree that that's a good quality in someone? They're able to see others' faults, yes. And then they think, well, that could be improved. So the next one is called mahatara. And that person overlooks the faults and sees the good. So the first one sees the bad and thinks, I'll help them, they can overcome it. This can be overcome. The second one overlooks the fault, deliberately goes out of their way to overlook the fault, just to see the good. Have you ever done that before? Yeah. Some good and bad. You see the good and bad, but you overlook the bad and you just accept the good, right? And the third one, mahatama, magnifies small good qualities and sees no faults. So there's some small good quality in somebody, and then that person says, oh, look at this. This is necessary to help improve people, especially in Kali Yuga, because as mentioned already at the outset of the Srimad Bhagavatam, people in Kali Yuga, Prayanal Payusha, mostly says People have no good qualities. Prayanal payusha shabya kalavasmin yugejana mandasumanda. So people are slow to take to spiritual practice. Sumanda, matayo. They have really bad ideas. The ideas they come up with are horrible. For instance, let's come up with a nuclear weapon that can kill everybody, and then we'll manufacture them ad infinitum and keep them in storage till we don't know what to do with them. Anyway, I won't go further into that, but people have bad qualities, but Lord Nityananda and those representing Lord Nityananda, they'll find where there is some little good quality and say, okay, let's look at that. Let's fan that spark and let it grow. And then finally, the topmost is called Ati Mahatma. So Ati is like Atyahara. Atyahara means, ahara means eating, and Atyahara means extreme eating. It's like a sport, like extreme sports. So there's extreme eating and extreme collecting, and there's also Ati Mahatma. Ati Mahatma means really the highest of quality in a personality, and here's what they are like. Sees only good qualities where there are none. Sees only good qualities. There's no good qualities in a person, but so an example that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives is a robber breaks into the Grahasta's house with a knife, and at knife point he takes all their wealth and then absconds. And afterwards, this person, who's an Ati Mahatma, says, wow, he's really pious. He didn't kill us. He had the knife. He could have killed us all, but he didn't. And besides that, he's so poor and he doesn't have anything to eat. So he gave us the benefit of coming here so we could give something in charity. The Ati Mahatma. And then we come to the bad persons. As mentioned by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, first one is asadu. Not a sadhu, but asadu. Sees others' good qualities as capable of being transformed into faults. So the example that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says is a person is seen to be around town giving charity here, there, and everywhere. And then the person thinks, this is not going to end well. The person's going to get puffed up from giving charity, and then they'll just become a scoundrel. And anyway, they're just doing it for their own aggrandizement. They don't really care about people anyway. This is the entry level of bad vision and a polluted heart to criticize people. They're doing something good, and you see it, and they say, actually, their motive is wrong. It's not going to amount to anything. Actually, it's going to come out bad in the end. Sound familiar? Could happen. The modes of natural nature pull us down. Speaking harshly is a bad quality, but because it can be for someone's benefit, it becomes a good quality, like nema juice, which cures sickness, though it is bitter. Oh, this is the examples from the other ones. Let's just keep going on the bad. Okay, you're there. So the second one, asudatara. Asudatara. Asadutara is overlooks the good in others but sees the faults. So there's faults and there's some good quality, but the asudatara is expert at overlooking the good quality and just find the fault. It goes right to it. Then you have the asudatma. Asadutama magnifies the small faults and sees no good. Some fault, so make it a really big thing and forget any good quality. And here we go. Are you ready for the fourth quality? Ati asudatama sees only faults in others where there are none. And we have that in today's verse. Our Lord Shiva is such a great soul personality. And Dāsa, out of envy, found fault in him and said, oh, he's just, he doesn't even have a job. Why are you hanging out with him? He has no clothes. He has no prospect in life. He's just, ew. Whereas, Lord Shiva is the greatest of personalities. So, we can come back to the Zoom. The quality of Lord Nityananda is that he's a dosha darshi. He sees no faults in others. He only sees that as the greatest of souls see, that everyone's engaged somehow in Krishna's service. And he goes out of his way to pull in those who are not even interested in Krishna consciousness. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam by Karabhajana Muni, Maya Mragam Dayite Yipsitam Anvadavad, that he goes after the souls who are ready to go back to Godhead, and Lord Nityananda goes after those who are not ready to go back to Godhead. He'll intervene in the lives of even the most fallen, as evidenced by his going door to door. He goes door to door, and as mentioned in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, some people slammed the door on him and said, get out of here. But out of special mercy, out of this sense that everyone has to come in contact with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he goes from door to door. And this is the principle of Lord Balaram. This is his mood of service to rescue the errant souls from the material world and give them an opportunity to go back to Godhead. And he's so merciful that he finds good qualities in others even when there are none. I mean, in the story of Jagai Madai, if you just take it at face value, these two dacoits had roughed up the greatest of sadhus, and it's an abomination. But Lord Nityananda was there thinking and advocating for them. He was thinking that, no, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I have to bring Chaitanya Mahaprabhu here to save them, and they're completely savable, because he saw that they have the potential. So this is the special quality of Balaram as the guru, the one who comes to save everyone and has this mood of unlimited compassion for the living beings. And now we'll take a few reflections or questions. Yes, Sadhu Shastra Prada. Shastra Sarprada needs a mic on.
Hare Krishna. The question I had was regarding a devotee completely overlooking. There's the devotee that overlooks the faults and magnifies the good versus the devotee that doesn't even see the faults. And the doubt that came to mind was, isn't also not acknowledging the faults, or in the sense of, what I mean is not being aware of the faults, isn't that kind of naive in the sense that in order to engage in Sangatyagat and Sato Vritti, to avoid bad association and associate with sadhus, one has to be able to distinguish between bad association and good association, and noticing bad association would be to notice a certain quality in someone that, maybe that's not as good for my devotional service.
Yes, and this point made in the Bhagavatam, Ishvare taradineshu balisheshu dusatsucha prema maitri kripopeksha yakaroti samadhyama, is for the Madhyama Adhikari who's going out to teach others Krishna consciousness. And the directive is that one should see various categories. One is the supreme, Ishvara, and one should exclusively develop love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead and His devotees. And the next is the Lord's devotees, and one should make appropriate friendship with the devotees. The next is those who are innocent. For the innocent, the devotee pours in mercy as much as possible. And for those who are envious, the devotee is asked to be upeksha, should not interact with them, but stay at a distance, because it will inflame their hatred if you try to engage them at that point in their life. However, Jiva Goswami mentions in his commentary to that verse that even as one avoids them, the Vaishnava should pray for them and think, how can they be delivered? What's the way that could possibly deliver them? And the more that one becomes qualified by the mercy of Lord Balaram and Lord Nityananda, we notice that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as Prabhupada mentioned, he could convert the animals. In fact, when it was mentioned in Navadvip, people became envious that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was doing kirtan at Srivasangam. And they were threatening to throw Srivas Thakur's house into the Ganga. You could pick up a house, a few people, and throw it in there. Floated down the river. And they were chiding Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his followers, saying that, the complaints are out there. You've been doing this, and now the Muslim king and his army is going to come and take you away. And Mahaprabhu said, let them come, whatever. And he said, if they do come, then we'll have a debate. And I'll have them read the Quran. We'll bring some animals, and they can read the Quran to them and see if those animals will have any effect on the animals. And then I will chant the holy names to these animals, and they'll begin crying and dancing in ecstasy. And we'll see who has the more potent process. I'll demonstrate it. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Jarikanda, even the animals who are generally envious, they were like the deer and the tiger, they were kissing when Mahaprabhu was coming through. And Prabhupada mentions that we can't convert animals, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu could. We can do our best according to how much we're empowered by Lord Nityananda, Hare Krishna, to overcome the hesitancies of the souls to leave the material world. So yes, we should discriminate, but there's a way in which, even as we do, we should maintain compassion within our hearts for those who are not yet eager to take to devotional service. Yes.
The aspect that I was thinking about it was in the sense that even when we see the example of the asadhu, when they see even someone is full of good qualities, they just don't even notice, and they somehow create some bad quality out of it. In that sense, even if a Vaishnava does that in the opposite way, how is that done? Simply because also in Bhagavatam we hear that those who are superior to us in spiritual life, we offer service to them. Those who are our equals, we develop friendship with them, and those who are not as advanced as us, we offer instruction to them and offer compassion to them. So in that sense, it also seems like even for the most advanced devotee, they still have to, when they offer compassion to the living entities, it's out of a sense of understanding that maybe they're not there yet. And
yeah, that's a practical matter, because we're working in two worlds. We have to deal with people in the situation they're in now. We also have to conduct ourselves according to the material karma that we have. This is mentioned by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, that there's Vyavaharika and Paramartika. So even as one has compassion for others and sees beyond all their faults, one may still have a practical way of interacting with people so that they can ultimately be benefited. So it's a matter of, in the purification of heart, there's a way in which we don't envy other people, and we also overlook their bad qualities or don't even see them at all. Nonetheless, it doesn't mean that one loses one's discrimination. Vidya vinaya sampane brahmani game hastani shuni chaiva shupakecha pandita samadarshina, a learned sage, sees others equally, but is also discriminating in how they deal with others according to the position they're in at the time. And Prabhupada gives us that admonition in the 2 verses from the Sri Upanishad, where it's mentioned that one who is filled with spiritual knowledge and vision doesn't discriminate between various kinds of living entities. And Prabhupada said there's a practical way we have to deal with people. We shouldn't imitate the Uttama Adhikari. So even the Uttama Adhikaris who see like that, to preach, they come down to the second level of Madhyama in order to practically deal with the categories of people to help organize them to go back to Godhead. It's a big project to help people go back to Godhead, so one has to have some strategy. Okay, Krishna Saka?
Thank you, Guru Maharaj, for the nice class. You mentioned about Matsarya envy. I was thinking about it last week. I have found out that I don't like when others get credits and I want all the credit. So I have this quality, I'm sorry, but can you please help me?
It really hurts, doesn't it?
It really hurts.
When you do something and somebody else gets the credit for it?
No. I meant, sorry. I meant like, even I didn't do, even like generally if somebody is getting credit, I feel like I have observed maybe, not that, I mean, I don't like when others get credit, but I want all the credit. Yeah, something inside me is like that, so.
Well, it's counterintuitive, but you can try this. Brajabihari told me once, he said, you never lose credit by giving credit where credit is due. On the other hand, if you try to take credit where you don't deserve it, then you get the karma later of being blamed for things you didn't do. Have you ever been blamed for something you didn't do? It's like, no, it wasn't me. It's like, no, we know it was you. That comes from taking credit where you didn't deserve it. On the other hand, if you remember that if you give the credit to other people, then you're not going to lose credit for it. You can try it and see what happens. And Vaishnavas tend to deflect everything anyway because they realize, I'm just an instrument. It's always better to remain an instrument because that's what we really are. And as soon as I start taking any credit, then I lose altitude in my process of devotional service. A guru is one who gives all credit to the previous guru. Like Prabhupada, he was always saying, it's not me. I was there in the room, San Francisco, circa 1973. Kesha Bharti, who was a householder at the time. We were all going on Sankirtan. They read the scores to Prabhupada. Kesha Bharti was on top. He was a great book distributor. He said to Prabhupada, it's all your mercy, Prabhupada. Prabhupada went, it is not. He slammed the table. And we all jumped, especially Kesha Bharti. He thought, I'm finished. I made an offense. And Prabhupada looked up and he said, it is the mercy of my Guru Maharaj. And so devotees are always endeavoring to realize that it's not my power, it's coming from Krishna. Also, Krishna could take it away at any time. One devotee was telling me how much he admired when he first joined the movement. There was a devotee, and still is, Charu. He's an excellent speaker. And, I mean, if it wasn't a temple president at Utah, he'd be a U.S. senator somewhere. I'd definitely vote for him. And so he was like that even back in 1970 when he joined in Australia. And my friend Bhagavad-ashraya Prabhu had joined there, and he was saying he was enamored of Jarup and his ability to speak and present Krishna consciousness. So they were driving somewhere. Bhagavad-ashraya was a new devotee, and he said to him in a reverential way, how can I be more like you? How can I speak so eloquently as you speak? And Shru turned to him and he said, just remember, Krishna can strike you dumb overnight. That's all he said. And there's a sense in the Vaishnavas that I'm just lucky to be here. I'm lucky somebody let me in the back door somehow. And if I look at others and say, how did these people get in here? Then you should look at yourself and say, who let me in? And somehow or other we've gotten some service. And this is Lord Balaram's mood. It's all for Krishna and nothing for me. And this is the mood that satisfies the heart. Savai pum samparo dharmo yato bhaktira hoksaje ahaituki apretiyata yayatma suprasiditi. Guarantee you're going to hear that verse again sometime in the next couple of days. That this is unmotivated, uninterrupted service. We interrupt ourselves by like, I'm so great, I'm so great, I'm so great, I'm so great. Look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me. And then we lose our we lose our bhava. But if we can follow the pure devotees, if we can follow Lord Nityananda, it's all for Lord Chaitanya, it's all for my guru, it's not for me. I'm the instrument. And remember that. Krishna gives you the credit. Madhavendra Puri, he ran away, but everyone chased after him. He didn't want it, actually didn't want it. It wasn't a technique. Let me run away and then I'll get more credit. But the devotees realized that their real happiness in life actually is being Krishna's part and parcel and just cooperating with him in service. And if we come to that point and we're able to lose this sense that I have to feed my ego, it's not that we won't be satisfied. The ego's never satisfied, no matter how much it eats. It's always like, give me more, give me more. And when we actually give to Krishna without expecting anything in return, then we actually feel full. We feel happy. So we can practice that. Do selfless service. Don't take the credit. And you'll see that those who actually live in that mood become the most glorified of all. People notice them more than anything. Jayanti was like that. He was very humble. He drove a cab. He came to Prabhupada and he said, Prabhupada said, keep driving, I need the money. So Jayanti would drive, then he'd come home, wash pots. He was always doing some menial service for Prabhupada. I remember in a big darshan, maybe around the same time, Jayanti was working on the Rath Yatra and he came in and he was all greasy. Not all greasy. Well, he had work clothes on. Everybody else looked really sharp sitting up near Prabhupada. And Prabhupada noticed him in the back of the room, nodding out. He was tired. He'd been up all night. You never lose credit by giving credit where credit is due. Prabhu? Yes.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, I had a question about one of the verses from the morning where it was mentioned that for him, for Lord Balram's service is ecstasy, something along these lines. So, I wanted to ask, personally at least I have seen this tendency in myself. Although theoretically there is some appreciation that service is real ecstasy, but at a practical level, when lots of services come, when it becomes overwhelming, the tendency is to feel burned out and to have to say no to some services. So, Maharaj, how do we develop this genuine appreciation for any service that may come, and how do we pray to Lord Balaram on this day to give us the bala for doing service? the spirit in which all devotees in the spiritual world serve.
Everybody's different, has different talents and ways that they can offer service to Krishna. So we have to find our niche. I remember Pushkar he was an artist, so he was offering that to Prabhupada. And he complained to Prabhupada one day. He said, all the book distributors, they get to go out every day. And he sensed, all the energy was going there. And Prabhupada said to Pushkar, who had to stay home and paint every day, he said, the painters are the best book distributors. He appreciated his service. Some others have a nature of wanting to have multiple services all at once, just like there's a natural tendency. Who wants to be a CEO anyway? You got to worry all day long. At night, 1 o'clock in the morning, somebody calls you from Hong Kong and says, make a decision in the next 10 minutes or we're going to lose $20 million. Would you like that kind of job? You can't. Some people love it. That's what they live for, because they have that alpha drive in them. And for them, they may take a huge portfolio of service, and others may have a smaller niche because they feel satisfied in another way because their nature. But we know from the story of Lord Ramachandra, when Hanuman was jumping over the ocean or getting ready to, and the squirrel was helping to build the bridge, and there was a sense among some that, like, come on, why don't you let the big boys do this? Ramchandra said, no, the squirrel has equal sincerity and also is doing his best. So his service is as glorified as yours. So it's important to find what we can do, so we feel that we're using our natural abilities and talents. And Prabhupada mentions this in the story of Gajendra. Everyone has a natural way of life, and we should have sensory strength, and we should have a natural condition that we live in so that we can go on with our service in the best possible way. And if we find that we're becoming so overwhelmed that we're losing altitude in our devotional service, then it's important to adjust it so that we don't feel like that, so we feel naturally happy. And learning to say no can be very helpful. I noticed when new devotees come into any kind of sangha and they have a vibrancy to them and maybe some talent, everyone hits them up. Can you do this? Can you do that? Hey, come join my thing. And in ISKCON also, not that many people ask you what your portfolio already looks like. They'll just say, like, hey, can you help me with this and help me with that? And you can end up with an overburdened portfolio. And you can make it if you make it simpler so that you can really lean into your service, there's no harm. You don't have to do everything, but do what you can with as much sincerity and concentration as you possibly can. So get some mentorship on that. Find people who can help coach you, who have more experience, that have been around for a long time, and can look at and say, like, are you crazy? What are you trying to do? How many hours are you sleeping? And so forth. It's not that we want to shy away from any service, but we should do it in such a way that we can handle it, and we should be, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, yukta haraviharasya, yukta cheshtasya karmasu, yukta swapnavabodhasya, yogo bhavati dukkhaha. Be balanced in everything that you do so that you can be steady and consistent. Consistency is an important aspect of any practice, what to speak of devotional service. If you can stay steady throughout your lifetime, you're going to be very successful. Just find a place where you can be steady and not get knocked off because of getting out of balance. Okay, last two for the close. Last three, but it's going to be really quick. You'll see I'm going to answer in one sentence with maybe a semicolon. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, I had more of a reflection. You were talking about how Lord Balaram is the Param Guru, and that I was thinking about how gurus are they transfer the spiritual qualities from them to their disciples, how they lead by example. And I was just thinking how when I was younger, Balaram was my favorite. Even now he's still my favorite personality. But when I was younger, I used to like him because he was very strong, and then he protects all the Brajavasis. It's in his name, Bala. And then people started saying, Bala refers to spiritual strength, and I was shocked. What Balaram? The name, it refers to spiritual strength. But then as I grew older, I started realizing how spiritual strength is more important, is harder to get than material strength, because spiritual strength is way more important, and to get progress in Krishna consciousness, spiritual strength is needed. Just thinking how Balaram is the epitome of spiritual strength, and how we should pray to him if we want to progress in our spiritual life.
Very good point. Prayana kale manasat chalena bhaktya yukto yoga balena chaiva bruvor madhye pranam avesha samyak satam param purusham apaiti divyam. This is a verse from the 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, in which Krishna talks about how one requires yoga balena, or spiritual strength, in order to leave one's body properly. You'll notice when people leave their bodies, if they haven't developed spiritual strength, it's very difficult for them. If they get thrown in a hospital somewhere and someone turns on the TV, they may not have the strength to say, could you turn that off? That takes a lot of strength for people. So could you turn that off? Because you have to have a positive taste and spiritual strength. That was one sentence. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Maharaj, for a wonderful class. I was thinking about, we saw the categories of good and bad person, and then there are different categories. But then what I've seen is that it's like a pendulum. Sometimes we oscillate. It's not necessarily just one. So how can we see good in others when, for example, sometimes you come under mode of passion, in the sense that, you're angry with someone. So you can still see, good in others. You get reminded, okay, they have some good quality. So how do you practically do that?
You have to cultivate the mode of goodness. And Krishna mentions this at length in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, in the Uddhava Gita. He tells Sri Uddhava and all of us that in everything we do, the kind of water you drink, the environment you have, the kind of things you listen to, you should cultivate goodness. And when we're able to come to goodness, yesham tvantakatam papam jananam punyakarmanam te tvandva mohanir mukta bhajanti mam drudhavrata, then we can be steady in our good qualities and our devotional service. So cultivate sattva. And for the close, William, and that was one sentence with 2 semicolons.
Hare Krishna. So just sort of following up on the line of questioning that Shastra Saraprat started earlier. Sometimes when I feel I don't have knowledge about something, I may approach a senior devotee, more knowledgeable devotee, and I may ask for guidance from them or ask for more information from them. Yet somehow they have this wrong-headed notion that they have nothing to teach me, either because they feel they're not qualified or that I'm qualified when I'm not. And so how can I convince these people to see my faults and to see their own glories, so that I can take some instruction from them?
It requires a relationship. The guru-disciple relationship in any venue requires cultivation. And of course, we see it with Arjuna. He turned to his friend and he said, okay, no more of this friendship stuff. I'm your disciple. You tell me what's wrong with me. And Krishna did. He said, you're really saying some stupid stuff here. And to have that is a very important aspect of our advancement, is to develop a relationship with somebody that you trust. You have to have trust. And they have to trust you. And also you have to which takes cultivation over time, because it comes through consistency in a relationship that you start to trust somebody and you say, wow, this person always shows up, or this person, always has my good in mind. They're consistent. And then when the timing is right, you can enter into that relationship very deliberately and say, please do this. So when you approach, that was a semicolon, you approach somebody in the beginning, it may not be the right time yet in the relationship to just say, tell me all my faults. In fact, it's very difficult for devotees to tell other people their faults. Even in the guru-disciple relationship, you'll find, look, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he wanted to instruct Brahmananda Bharati, of course, Brahmananda Bharati was a senior devotee. He was one of the intimate associates and disciple of Srila Ishvara Puri. Or godbrother of Srila Ishvara Puri, rather. And so when they said, he's here, they told Mahaprabhu, he's here in Puri. Should we bring him to you? And Mahaprabhu said, no, he's my senior, I should go to him. So they went to him and they said, here's Brahmananda Bharati. And Mahaprabhu said, I do not see Brahmananda Bharati. Brahmananda Bharati would not wear a deer skin. So he's standing right there, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed like that. Oh, you must be mistaken. That's not Brahmananda Bharati. Brahmananda Bharati would not wear a deer skin. And Brahmananda Bharati thought, oh, the Lord has instructed me. And he has spoken rightly that I put this on only for false prestige. So he went off, changed into a sannyasi robes, and he came back, and Mahaprabhu was unlimitedly satisfied with him. One instant, but there are many, and they're all different. It's not such an easy thing to impart knowledge to others, because there's this sense in the material world, it's all pervasive, that I know everything. Some people will admit it. They'll come out and say it. We were going door to door many years ago, knocked on a door, guy came out in his bathrobe, 11:30 in the morning, showed him the book. He goes, I know everything. I called all the devotees, said, you got to get up here fast. And the guy came out and I said, look, meet this guy. He knows everything. He goes, no, it's not like that. But everyone thinks they know everything. So unless there's that mood, tadvidi pranipatina, pripashnina seva, upadakshanti te jnanam ganinas tattvadarshana, that's a rare relationship. It takes cultivation, and one really has to adjust one's attitude that I'm going in pranipat. I'm going to offer my head at the feet of this person. Not many people will willing to do that. Maybe in a perfunctory way they'll do it and just say, yeah, boop, boop. A little chopping method, Prabhupada called it, like chip chop. But to sincerely put yourself in front of somebody that you trust, you've developed that sense, that's guru-disciple relationship. And then you offer service and you ask relevant questions because you really do have a question. Nothing inane, nothing that's insignificant, but you're asking because you really need to know. That's when the combustion takes place. So it's a rare thing in this world. You have to look for it. You have to find where you can get that relationship. Then you can fly. You can go all the way to Goloka if you can get that special relationship. So doesn't mean you can't. It just means really try hard for it. Om Tat Sat. Thank you very much, everybody, for attending the Mangal Artik and the whole morning program. Lord Balaram will bless everyone who came here today, no doubt about it, with spiritual strength. Gaur Premanande Haribo, Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo. Haribo, Nitai Gaura Haribo. Vanchagopdharusha Kripasindabe Vachapatitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nantakoti Vaishnaviniki Jai. See you all in a couple hours.